The world of Fallout is probably one of the darkest in all of gaming. Nuclear war, child slavery, whatever the Fisto is. These games are messed up, okay? I don't know what Todd and the boys are smoking over there, but they can keep it to themselves. That's why I decided that today, I will take a look back at 5 of the creepiest locations in all the Fallout games. For number 5, we're going all the way back to Fallout 3. As soon as you step foot outside the vault doors, you're blinded by the light of the barren wasteland ahead of you. It's just right outside the vault where this ominous location is located. Springvale School will probably be your first encounter with the raiders in the game, and the school sets quite the picture of them. On paper, Springvale School is no different than any other dungeon in the game. A multi-level building with lots of enemies and varied loot. But when you really start to look around is when the horror sets in. Jail cells are scattered around the building with the skeletons of children littering them. Children that in another time may have been learning in these very halls. Chalkboards and desks clash harshly with the rubble filling each classroom. Bodies hang from the hallways that used to be filled with students and teachers alike. If you're like me, this is one of the first places you went after leaving the vault. In a way, this is more of an introduction to the real wasteland instead of what we got earlier. This may seem pretty tame compared to other locations in the series, but I think it's the normality of a school that really makes this place unsettling. What is usually a place of order and discipline has now become a layer of evil and degeneracy. If you're going back to replay Fallout 3, consider stopping by here. Matthew's Animal Husbandry Farm is a small, farm located in the southeast of the Mojave Wasteland. Whenever you first arrive here, the place seems pretty normal. There are 2 large barns, a couple livestock pens, and a dilapidated old farmhouse. However, after looking around for a little bit in the south barn, you'll find a scrap of paper titled Torn Diary Page 1. Mom and Dad went to the NCR camp nearby to trade for supplies, but they haven't come back yet. I hope nothing bad has happened to them. The closest NCR camp to the house would be Camp Searchlight. However, if you've played New Vegas, then you know that Searchlight is heavily irradiated due to a Legion attack and full of feral ghouls. If his parents traveled there, this story might not have a happy ending. I took a chance today and left the animals alone to go look for Mom and Dad. I found them in the camp. They had become horrible feral ghouls. I didn't know what to do. They came at me so fast. Oh God, what have I done? As expected, this young man's parents met a horrible demise, but it's unfortunate that he was the one to have to put them down. If our story stopped here, then it would be one of the many tragic tales in the wasteland, but unfortunately, there's still more to uncover. Looking around even more will unveil Diary Entry 3, and we learn more about our tragic narrator. I hate being all alone. I want my mom and my dad back, but I can't have them back because I killed them. I didn't want to kill them, but I had to kill them, otherwise they would have eaten me. I hope the animals don't eat me. Can animals become ghouls? Things aren't looking good for our young farmer. Going through this event would be hard for anyone, but he doesn't seem to be taking it well at all. Hopefully we can find him and try to offer whatever aid we can. Unfortunately though, looking in the ruined farmhouse, there's a charred skeleton laying next to the 4th and final diary entry. The animals, they're evil. They tried to eat me in my sleep. They want the farm for themselves. Now that Mom and Dad are gone, they want the farm for themselves. They're plotting against me, plotting to eat me. They're becoming ghouls like my parents, and they want to eat me like my parents did. Too many of them to kill them all. I know what I'll do. I'll burn the house down around me. Then the animals can't eat me. There will be nothing left to eat. Seems like the death of his parents was too much for him, and he became overly paranoid of the livestock on the farm. He thought they were conspiring to eat him, and the only way to escape this was to burn the farmhouse down around him. Now it's easy to write this off as just a crazy man that couldn't cope with his family's death, but what if he's right? What if the Brahmin populating the farm have much darker intentions than we think? Andale is a small town tucked away in the capital wasteland. At face value, this place seems oddly reminiscent of pre-war America. Town's residents are wearing clean pre-war clothes, everyone is polite, and as a whole this place seems like one of the safest places in the wasteland. However, this place is much darker than meets the eye. If you speak to Old Man Harris, the eldest of the town's residents, he'll paint a much worse picture of the town.
What? How? How did you get in here? What are you doing in this town? Get out! Get out while you can! Well, they're not. They're killers. Every one of them. Run! Get out while you can! Don't believe me, do you? Just check out the basement or that shed. There's a reason they're locked.
He'll beg the player to leave the town, get as far away as you can. The whole friendly neighbor act, it's just that, an act. He tells the lone wanderer that if they don't believe him, they only need to look into the locked basement in the shed. Now, if you bring this to the other town's residents, they'll write this off as him being a senile old man. However, if we decide to investigate the town further, we'll soon find their dark secret. In the locked basement, you'll find a multitude of human remains. Some seem to have been there for years, some are no older than a week. They've been chopped up into tiny pieces, but it's not yet clear as to why. If you decide to look into the fridge, however, you soon make a shocking discovery. They're residents of Andale. They've been luring Wastelanders in only to kill them and eventually eat them. Panicked, you run out the front door only to be greeted by this.
Hey there, stranger. I've got something that I want to talk to you about. I couldn't help but notice that you're poking around in my basement. So, be honest now, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
Now, where it goes from here is up to you. You can choose to keep the town secret, and they'll embrace you as one of their own, even offering you a meal of... yeah. However, if you decide that you just can't live with what they are doing here, the whole town will go hostile. If you speak to Harris after this, he'll tell you more of the history of the town. Way back when the bombs first dropped, 4 families survived in their bunkers within Andale. When they finally emerged, they began to rebuild the town. Eventually, though, the food began to run out, and they had to resort to alternative methods. Over the next 200 years, they lured in Wastelanders as well as marrying off each other, which eventually led to a heavily incestuous bloodline. Are these residents just in their actions, or should they be stopped? Luckily, the player gets to decide. The vaults of Fallout are some of the creepiest locations in all of gaming. These places often had horrific experiments run in them. People lived their whole entire lives locked underground, not knowing that there were people behind the scenes with much more sinister goals. One of the most infamous vaults is Vault 22. Located on the outskirts of New Vegas, players on their way to the vault will be greeted with an unusual sight. The entrance to the vault is covered in dense green flora, not seen anywhere else in the game. You'll also find a sign with an ominous message scrawled onto it. Stay out. The plants kill. What could this mean? Curious, you walk through the large sealed door. Stepping inside, the place seems like a normal vault. It's only when you get to the lower decks is when the horror of the place is revealed. While down here, you'll run into these. These plant-like abominations, spore carriers, blend into the flora around them until they go in for the attack. In order to find out what these are, we need to look back at the history of the vault. Vault 22 was supposed to be an agricultural vault. One of the plants grown down here was... okay. Uvera mordicana, a fungus designed for pest control. This fungus eventually became airborne, and it soon infected the vault population. Several inhabitants became sick with a horrible cough, and some soon died. Oddly though, even though the host body died, the fungus actually began to thrive. The fungus would eventually take control of the body fully, and that's where these creatures came from. The scientists in the vault, beginning to panic, decided to eradicate the creatures entirely by releasing flammable gas in the vault's lower levels. They were too late though, and the spore carriers got them. And that brings us to present day Vault 21. Definitely one of the most unnerving and dangerous vaults in the game. The city of Boston is one of the biggest and most dangerous places in the wasteland. Located deep in the city is Pickman's Gallery. When the player first arrives here, this place will be crawling with raiders. This isn't surprising, the whole city is full of them. It's not until you step inside that you learn why they're here. I'm just gonna let this speak for itself. If we travel through the building, we'll eventually find a group of raiders surrounding a well-dressed man. Once we take care of the raiders, we can talk to Pickman. Pickman is, well, a serial killer. He captures, tortures, and kills raiders that he happens to come across. He then uses them for his art, if you can even call it that. Once you help Pickman, he'll thank you and give you the key to his safe upstairs. This safe will contain some random leveled loot, as well as Pickman's own blade. This art is some of the most disturbing imagery in the whole entire series. Severed heads, skulls without eyes, and crying, disfigured faces are what line the walls. The primary color used here is red, which I hope is paint, but I have a feeling is something else entirely. Those were just a few of the creepiest locations in the Fallout games. There are plenty more locations left for a part 2, so if that's something you guys want to see, let me know in the comment. If you like this video, liking and subscribing really helps me out a lot. That's all for me, thanks for watching, have a good day.